For those new to this, I highly suggest you watch the first 7 videos before this one, unless you don't care for spoilers. Oh, who am I kidding? Everyone and their mother knows about Touhou already. So, skip ahead another week or so, I guess. In typical Touhou fashion, Reimu, Marisa, and Yuyuko are sipping tea in the Hakure Shrine, discussing current events, things like the ghost spilling into the living world, and Yuyuko with her "I see nothing wrong with this" attitude isn't really doing anything about it despite having tempted them with a flower viewing beforehand. Isn't this something like before with Remelia? Just then, Sakuya pops in and states that the aforementioned ghosts are overwhelming the world of the living, and Yuyuko waves it off again. She's like, "I've got this already, there's no need to go worrying about it." And then Yomu pops in, and she's a little disturbed because prior she sent a message from Yuyuko, I'm assuming, for the boundary between the netherworld and this world to be closed up, but apparently that message wasn't received. How irritating. Eventually the girls decide to go there and do something about it themselves, although in the game sense, you'd only be able to choose the girl you'd clear the prior story with. Leaving the perpetrators by themselves at the shrine. Yeah, this is almost exactly like Remelia. Except Yuyuko doesn't really have anything preventing her from going back. Welcome to the extra stage of Perfect Cherry Blossom. And there is a Chen again. She's totally hyped up and ready to go another round. And this is what I meant by Chen gets serious. She'll tackle you so hard, one of your lungs will disintegrate, and you'll accidentally breathe it in through the other one. Okay, not really, but she is considerably stronger this time around, and it would be wise of the player not to underestimate her first time going through. It's not a far cry from her actually being stronger than mid-boss Patchouli at this point. You know, since she actually moves out of your line of fire. Patchy just kinda stays put and takes it. Anyway, around here we find out that not only is the story not over, and Yuyuko sent us in the direction of the one really pulling the strings, but we also know that Yuyuko, whose mortal body was used to seal the Saigyo Yakushi in the first place, will never see it fully bloomed simply because she exists. And considering how long she's ruled over the netherworld, and how long she will, because she is the last of the Saigyoji, and a ghost at that, that's rather sad. So I'm assuming those spirits from before were shooting at us because of the prospect of their extended flower viewing being cut short, being forcefully herded back into Hakugyokuro, and sealing the barrier behind them. That sounds mean, but we can't exactly go ignoring the rules of nature either. That goes for the fairies too. What are fairies doing in the afterlife? Okay, here I am talking about all this extra stuff, and what I really wanted to talk about was the difference between watching games like this and actually playing them. Sure, snagging a replay and analyzing it is probably a good idea for beginners. However, I don't think you're going to find much use in doing so until you take something from it and put it to use yourself, like pattern recognition or certain strategies for stages or even the different hitboxes for all the different types of bullets. This doesn't just apply to Touhou. If you really want to learn how any game feels, a second-hand account won't do it alone. You really have to experience these sort of things for yourself, down to the game input and player mindset, to develop a valid opinion. You can't just go around borrowing other people's opinions. That's not gonna work. In case you think I'm joshing you with something, know that I'm still learning this myself. By that, I mean, I don't try to force things on people. Of course, it still happens sometimes, but I try not to, and that's the important part. That's another reason why I keep pushing to play with the J, because I know at least some people have that, "Oh, he's playing that game I know about. Let me insert my input here" idea. Or something like that. That's what I'm aiming for in general, the relation factor. So here we have a bit of a magic circle puzzle, a rainbow-colored puzzle, and I kinda enjoy this part because even though it's short, it tests your dodging ability and your ability to plan movements in advance. Although this could also go into placement, and why I don't like stage 4s. Which only makes a little bit of sense, because I do enjoy this stage when I'm not getting beat down ruthlessly. And a fair bit later, here comes a new challenger! And she knows that we're the ones that shot down Chen. What she doesn't know is that we did just that. 3 times. Come at me, sis. Now, when I said Yomu's means of dueling was frightening, I purposefully didn't take into consideration Ran Yakumo's abilities by comparison. To me, Ran may not be as fast, but she's a hell of a lot more powerful and intelligent, being a kitsune after all. Kitsune is the Japanese word for fox, as most of you likely know. I'm certain you do after all of the other media you've been exposed to. According to native lore, every 100 years, the kitsune grows a new tail up until the 800-year mark, when it grows its ninth and final tail. Their tail length is also a rough indication of how old they are, as well as how strong and wise they've become. After the first 100 years or so, it also begins learning illusory magic, giving them the air of mischief, but they can also choose to be very just and dedicated to anyone they choose. So why is it that I find this powerful, this intelligent, this badass character overall, that is leagues, columns, digits, and colors apart from Chen, being mostly fanon fodder for what I discussed in Stage 2? This is because Ran is Chen's master. It's as simple as that. Just because she has a simple master-servant relationship, she's pretty much subject to everything Chen is, and nothing more. Being motherly is okay. She's over 800 years old. Being regular amounts of protective is okay. Chen is her Shikigami after all. What is not okay by any means is regularly forsaking all of the previously mentioned qualities to have her mentally and sometimes physically obsessed with Chen all the time, bloody noses included. Maybe that has something to do with why she's not that popular otherwise, now that I think about it. I hardly ever see Ran show off her smarts, and I've almost never seen Ran display her strength. I hope I'm looking in the wrong spots, I really do. But until I find something like that, I'm left with the impression that she's severely underestimated among a majority of the fanbase. Maybe this is because we don't actually know what she in particular can do. We know that she's a Shikigami, which is like a servant spirit to a given magic user, usually that of an animal. Except in Touhou, Shikigami have corporeal form. It's fine by me. Not like it matters how accurate that little detail is. So yeah, Ran is a Shikigami, but she's still powerful enough to have her own servant in Chen, which is quite unusual. Chen's not all that obedient though, so it mostly falls on Ran to do things, while Chen pretty much just goes off and does her own thing. I'd like to believe that that's only because she's still a Shikigami herself, and once she becomes even more powerful, that won't even matter. I don't know how much stronger she can become though, given that most of her spell cards are based on illusion and Japanese concepts of divinity. But apparently there's still something. Like they can always perform better than what they are now. And I think that's part of why they've sometimes been compared to computers of the outside world. Every year, new models are being made with better programming and better overall specs for calculating things and for general management and research. So in terms of computers, Chen would be this battery-operated children's computer complete with a user's manual, and Ran would be something akin to the gamer's dream computer, with multi-core processors, 2 or 3 monitors, and at least 4 hard drives with exabytes worth of capacity each. That is an amazing computer. You would be able to store everything in the history of the rest of your life, your children's lives, and your grandchildren's lives. In 1080p. And not even fill the first hard drive. As potentially awesome as that sounds, it feels like I'm getting off track. But I'm gonna continue anyway, because I'm not done. Even though I don't usually talk about the characters until they show up in the story, I'm gonna cut it close when I say that not only is Ran overshadowed by her Shikigami most of the time, she's also overshadowed by her master. That's the pre-GameCube Luigi effect. Twice. Stacked on top of one another. Which is a crying shame, but this does happen without fail when you have a cast as large as Touhou does. There are Ran fans out there regardless, don't get me wrong, I've met a couple of them, so it's not a total waste of concept, and I'm glad about that. Maybe there could be more fans later on, but I personally don't think it's going to happen unless she makes another appearance. Without Chen or her master. I don't think that has a very high chance of happening, but you never know.